Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this series of the Magdalene Heart Path course. This is our fifth meeting, and our topic for this meeting is, I have to look at my notes, activating compassion. And glad you're all here. So I want to start out again with what we've been doing with celebrations and mornings relative to any ways you have been affected by this material since our last meeting. Celebrating any way your inner divine qualities have been fulfilled, or mourning any ways your inner divine qualities haven't been fulfilled.
I'd like to share a celebration. I think that having the material has really helped Chris and I be able to communicate through some rocky stuff this week, with both of us being aware of our own divine qualities that weren't being satisfied and thinking about each other's. So I think for communication, it's really great to be thinking about.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was able to use it in my therapy practice with a client yesterday, and watched him go from mourning to celebration, so it's like really great to bring into the world.
All right, thank you.
So I'm celebrating not feeling that I'm getting as hooked into other people's emotions, and just noticing more so, and just allowing. So there's like this greater level or capacity to allow and notice, and not feel that I am being like personally drawn into it in a way that makes me reactive. So
right, that you're not responsible for their feelings.
Yeah.
Right, they're coming out of their inner divine qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess all I would say is that I would echo what Ellen said in a way, because just the aspect of being more thankful, giving thanks, acknowledging thanks to people has been better for communication. So that would be a celebration.
All right. Thank you. Anything else anyone wants to share, what they noticed during the week?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Ellen and Bob have also said. It feels good to, it's a celebration to be able to recognize that the feelings that are on the surface are really kind of the tip of something, and then you get to kind of, guess a little bit at what might be behind that, the divine qualities. If you're with the person, it can be, good to be able to get confirmation. If you're not, then you just kind of wonder. And but it definitely helps me go in a further direction rather than just kind of reacting to the emotion, which often I would be in the emotional reactive phase. Sometimes when somebody was giving me a criticism or judgment, it gives me an opportunity to step through that.
Yes, thank you. And I find when I do that, so often it leads me to such a different place, such a different understanding of what's happening than, reacting to that more surface level of the emotion or the action we're observing, the words we're hearing. When we go to that deeper place, can lead us to a very, very different place. Okay. All righty. Thank you all very much. So I want to start with clarifying something. And it's about the presentations for this session, the session 5 presentations. Back when I recorded those, I was using a term that was a carryover from my training in nonviolent communication, where I was using the term empathy. And since then, in one of the courses that I taught, someone suggested a different term that I like so much better, and that I've started using, which is, instead of empathy, calling it heart-based listening and heart-based reflecting. And what I like about that is I think it's so much clearer what we're actually doing. The term reminds me and others, what the process is. And so I've switched, but I'm talking about the same thing in the presentation that I was calling empathy. I'm now calling heart-based listening and heart-based reflecting. So that's what I'll be calling it in this coaching session. And if that works for you, I encourage you to use whatever term or phrase helps and supports you and reminds you to come from your heart in this way. So I also want to talk about one of the practice suggestions. If you give me just a minute, I'm adjusting my notes here. One of the practice sessions that you may or may not have heard or remembered from the recordings was the first practice suggestion, which was looking at how you characteristically respond to statements that include judgment or blame, and especially when the judgment or blame is directed towards you. And some of the possibilities: do you tend to find fault with the other when you hear these kinds of statements? Or do you find fault with yourself? Or do you tend to notice your feelings and inner divine qualities or those of the other? Did anyone do this observing practice? And if so, what did you notice about yourself and your own characteristic responses, ways of responding? And even if you didn't do it as a practice during the week, if you want to feel into it now and reflect on what you do, I'd love to hear any sharing anyone would like to make with all of us. Characteristic ways that you respond when you hear a communication of blame or judgment, especially when it's focused toward you.
So full disclosure, I didn't finish listening to the recordings until about an hour before this call. So I've been trying to, just timing, trying to think about that in the last hour. And what I found interesting is that when I've noticed that judgment is, kind of especially being directed at me, my first, in my initial responses, I really judge myself, like, oh gosh, what's going on here? Oh, I'm, something's bad or wrong with me. But then I almost, like, within the next few moments, I'm able to somewhat identify what the other person's inner divine qualities are. And what that's doing is I feel like I'm skipping certain steps. Like I go inward, but then I also see their divine qualities, and yet I almost skip over that step and I first identify what my own inner divine qualities, like I almost do them out of order. And so that's where I'm at so far with my reflection. And as I do more, I'll be really curious to see, what does that really look like? How does that really impact my response or how I engage with somebody?
Right.
So far.
So the second corollary that often goes with assuming we're the problem is we're responsible to fix it.
Yes.
And so if we're coming from that paradigm, it's possible to use this teaching and still be coming from that old paradigm. Still be trying to make it right, make it okay, make it safe, whatever it is, by using these tools.
Okay.
And so it's possible that that may be what's going on.
Uh-huh.
And I hope that what we do today in the course may support you in finding a different pathway.
I hope so. That's why I'm here.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to share on that as well. I've noticed that often that when I feel judged or criticized, one of the first things is that I feel made wrong. And there's the kind of egoic response that I don't want to be wrong.
Mhm.
But also there's a second part of that, which is, okay, what have I done that has not satisfied the other person? And I'm not yet thinking about the divine qualities. It's also a secondary kind of failure thinking. What have I done to fail that has made.
Oh, I lost you. Your sound froze, and now your video has frozen. I'm going to try something. I'm going to turn your video off and see if your sound comes back. Sometimes that helps when the bandwidth is too low for supporting both. So I can do it on my end. I'm going to turn your video off if I can. Let me see if I can do this. If you can do it on your end, you can try that too. It seems completely frozen. Grrr. I'm feeling frustrated. This is not fulfilling my inner divine quality of connection. Okay, I hope they come back quick. I want to say something while I'm thinking of it, and when they come back, I'll probably want to say it again so that they can hear it. But this is oftentimes the first step, is hearing that I'm wrong. And then what we do with that, we have a few different directions that lots of us characteristically go. I heard from Jenna, if I'm wrong, then it's my responsibility to take care of the other. And I heard Chris giving voice to, if I'm wrong, then first I want to defend myself. No, I'm not wrong. And second, I want to fix myself. If I am wrong, what did I do wrong so I can fix it? But still coming from that place of rightness and wrongness, which is so deeply trained and ingrained in most of us. And so part of this session is, again, bringing that to consciousness, which can be a painful awareness of coming to realize, wow, I didn't realize how strong this was and this place that I was coming from. And that first step can be somewhat of a bitter pill that can lead to transformation and coming from a different place. But we first need that step of coming to awareness of where we are right now. Where are we beginning from? Any other reflections anyone wants to share? Characteristic responses? I haven't heard anybody representing mine yet. Yes, Bob?
I'm thinking they're back. Do you
Hi, welcome back. We see you again.
say what you were just saying?
Before you begin, Bob, I want to check in with Chris and see, were you complete?
Yeah, I don't know how much of that you heard. Sorry, we had a network problem. I lost train of thought.
Okay, can I reflect back what I heard?
Sure.
Okay, I heard you saying that what you were aware of was that when you heard somebody communicating something toward you with blame or judgment, you tended to hear that you were wrong, and your first response was to not want to be wrong, and so a kind of defense within yourself. And a second response was, well, if I am wrong, looking at what I'm wrong, what I did wrong so I can fix it, but it was still coming from that place of hearing wrongness.
Yeah, it was shifting from feeling the blame from others to then kind of blaming myself. And then I've been just aware of the brink of that next point where it's like, okay, what is this really about? Is this not satisfying a divine quality myself, or is this not satisfying a divine quality of somebody else? So I've just been on that point, and I'm looking forward to practice that more. And now I'm complete.
I really like what I hear you saying in the direction, and hopefully my hope is with support from today and maybe listening to the presentations if you haven't done that fully, that you will have help in even shifting it earlier. So beginning to shift, not even hearing the wrongness, hearing something else.
Yeah, that will be wonderful.
Yes, that'll be a celebration. I'm still working on that one too, but sometimes stronger than others.
That's true.
All right.
All right, thank you.
As I was going to say, this concept of thank you, or saying thank you for saying this, that, or the other thing. Thank you for bringing it up. Almost takes it a step back from ostensibly seeing blame, or either for yourself or for the other. Just thank you for the communication. It's kind of how I see it. And it kind of takes it to a different level of not being so confronting, or acknowledging that you're thanking them for being in communication, or in empathy with you, or at least communicating with you. Because so much of in my opinion, our danger we have, especially in interpersonal communication anymore, is we don't, we stuff it. We don't speak enough. And then other times we speak too much. So anyhow, I just want to say that the idea, which I'm hearing more and more of late, of saying thank you for whatever, is a good way to start in a communicative session.
I like that, and that ties in with something we're just about to go into, the practice we're just about to go into for me, which is that we could take it a step further and be really clear within ourselves. Whether we give voice to it or not is, we're in choice about whether we want to do that. But within ourselves, we could take it a step further in what we're thanking them for. And we could be thanking them for expressing their feelings and inner divine qualities as best they know how. And that may be, in this case, the problem with you is blah, 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 blah. But we have the option of hearing that as they're doing their best at given the skills and understanding they have and stresses and strains they're under right now to make a connection with us. And we can hear that. I think I've said this before, that Marshall Rosenberg used to say that people are always only communicating two things. Please, can you help me get my inner divine qualities met? Thank you for helping me get my inner divine qualities met. So if we hear a statement of blame and judgment as, please, can you help me get my inner divine qualities met, rather than, here's what's wrong with you, then to me it's a simple link to thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your world in this way. Okay. Well, where I want to go from here and with this is talking about, and I believe that this was also, so I want to do some practice around this because I think this was also in the presentation, about 4 options we have for how to respond to people. And I want to back up a little bit here and do a review of where we're at in this whole process. Because in the first 4 sessions, we started with bringing awareness to whether we were coming from blame and judgment ourselves, and and bringing awareness to that. And then we went into transforming that by doing some inner work, going into our heart and changing that into, rather than reacting, responding with blame and judgment, what are the feelings that are going on? And then taking that into the deeper level of connecting the feelings with the inner divine qualities. And that's what I look at as making the heart connection within ourselves of what's really going on, the shift from the mind to heart. And then we came kind of out from our inner world, back out into interaction with the greater world through, are there any requests that I have? Given that this is what's going on in my heart, these are my inner divine qualities, that are or are not being fulfilled in this particular circumstance. Are there any requests that would support my heart connection? So this is all kind of like, they have this term in the AA program that I really love where they call staying on your side of the street. And this is kind of like all on our side of the street. What's going on with us, and being aware and being heart connected to ourselves, and then being communicative with the greater world, and interacting with the greater world from our own place. So what we're shifting to in this session is, what about everything else? What about the greater world? And how can we interact with the greater world in a way that first and foremost supports our own heart connection, and secondarily does our best to support other people connecting with their hearts, connecting with our heart. So here our focus is more on what's going on with others as opposed to what's going on with ourselves. But the foundation is our own heart connection. And this is kind of getting back to what Jenna was sharing earlier, where that's really, really important to that this comes out of our own heart connection. And if it's not, I recommend really focusing on yourself and, you know, taking this in as a practice and as learning, but maybe not focusing on it so much until you're strong enough with your own heart connection that you can maintain that and have enough excess to expand to others. Because if not, the tendency will be to give up yourself in serving others. And that's a liability many people have, especially those of us who tend to be the sensitives, where we're easily sensitive to what's going on with others. It's very easy to give up ourselves and simply be aware of what's going on with others. And sometimes that has been developed even as a certain kind of defense, a safety, a form of protecting ourselves, where if we feel somehow in danger of losing love, losing acceptance, losing inclusion, well, if I take care of others, then I'll be okay. And I think it's wonderful to take care of others, but I would encourage people to really be aware of what your motive is in taking care of others, and not to do it at your own expense, to do it where you're taking care of yourself and others, not that either or of it has to be me or them. So that was a little bit of an aside there, but I think an important one for a lot of people who have developed patterns, a lot of people in our spiritual world who are sensitive, and it's easy to connect with others in a certain way, so something to be aware of. Any questions before I go on about what I just said, about the path we've been on, the turning point here, and the importance of staying connected to yourself as you become aware of others?
I had one thing that came to me as you said the word at your own expense. To me, expense is kind of an economic term that is fine to use, and I think it's accurate in what you're saying. I would personally utilize the word detriment versus expense, because it's not, detriment involves to harm yourself, whereas an expense is something that doesn't necessarily have to harm yourself. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I know I'm not wrong. I'm just my perspective.
You are wrong.
It was
very clear here.
it came from here to here and then back, and I wanted to mention it.
Thank you. I like the spirit of that very much, and really,
thank you for thanking me.
It's how supporting me and being conscious of what I'm really trying to communicate here, and really, it's about connection. It's going from the idea, which is to me a very third-dimensional idea, that of winners and losers, and it's either me or you. And so oftentimes many of us out of that kind of base level consciousness have developed being aware of others, which means not aware of ourselves. And what I want to support is, first of all, the possibility even that we can do both. We can be aware of ourselves and others, as opposed to either or, and that not only as a possibility, but as a highly recommended course, that our connection to others comes out of our self-connection. Thanks. So I want to ask, just as a kind of getting it out in consciousness right now, if you remember these 4 different ways of responding, which I think were gone over in the presentations, and if we can put them on the table, what these 4 ways are. So if you remember any of the ways, I invite you to share one or more of the ways, of possible ways of responding.
You could judge the other.
Right, which is saying the other is wrong. Mm-hmm. Or even the other, well, let's stick with that. Judging the other as being right or wrong.
You could judge yourself.
You can judge yourself as being right or wrong. And 2 more possible ways.
You could look at what your inner divine qualities and feelings are.
Right? Go to, this is what's alive in me. This is what's going on in my heart, my feelings and inner divine qualities.
And you could do the same for the other person. What are their
Right.
feelings or inner divine qualities?
Right, exactly. What, rather than their rightness or wrongness, what are their feelings? What are their inner divine qualities? So this is a choice that we have. This is part of our free choice. We are in choice of how we hear, how we receive from others. We're not only in choice about what we do on the inside with ourselves or what we communicate, put out to the world. We're also in choice about what we receive, which to me was a very radical idea and one that I like a lot, very empowering. So I want to do some practice with this. And in order to do practice, what I want to do is have each of you come up with one statement that may be something that you've heard, or that if you were to hear it, it would push your buttons. Some statement of blame or judgment of yourself that would be a button-pushing statement for you to hear. And I want you, if it helps you, write it down to remember it, because we're going to do a little practice with this. If you don't need to and you can just hold it in your head, that's fine. But write down what the statement is and just the role of the person saying it, like my mother, my daughter, my boss, whatever. So a role and then the statement they make that pushes your buttons, or could make. And I want to give you a couple examples of button-pushing statements in case you're not sure what a button-pushing statement is for you. This might stimulate some past button-pushing statements that you could use as an example. We are going to be sharing this, so do come up with a statement that you're comfortable sharing with the group. So here's some examples. You're so fill in the blank. You're too fill in the blank. You never fill in the blank. You always fill in the blank. You're a fill in the blank. The problem with you is fill in the blank. If only you were more like so-and-so, or you're just like so-and-so, or this wouldn't have happened if you had or hadn't fill in the blank, or if you do that, this will happen, or the reason that happened is because you fill in the blank, or you deserve fill in the blank. So hopefully one or more of those stimulated a juicy button-pushing statement for you that we can do some practice with. So I invite you to come up with your statement and your role. Yeah?
Just listening to that, I don't necessarily have a statement yet, but I realize that I have a lot of buttons. So
those statements hurt, don't they? They're painful, even to hear without the fill in the blank.
Yeah, is all of the above an answer? We can.
Yeah, right. No, I really would like you to do one statement with some particular in there. So please fill in the blank, whatever it is that would push your buttons. And then when you have your statement and your role, let me know so then we can go ahead.
We're not, you don't want us to have the statement right now, do you? I mean, do you want us to, you're saying go ahead?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, let me know when you have it.
Okay.
So then we can go to the next step.
I have it.
Great. Great.
Yeah, I have one.
Okay. Okay, good. So here's what we're going to do. Because we're a small group, we have to do this a little bit differently. So I'm going to take two roles here. So what we're going to do is one person is going to share their statement with us. And then I'm going to take on the role of the person saying that. That's going to be one role I'm going to take. And I will say that to the person making that statement. Whose statement it was, I will say it to him. So for example, never mind, I'm not even going to explain more. It'll be really obvious when we do it. I don't want to take too much time explaining. And then everyone else, not the person who gave the statement, but everybody else is going to get to make one response to that person of each of the four ways. So one of you will make a response making the person wrong who made the statement. And then a second one can make a response of making the person wrong who received the statement. And then a third can give an example of what it would be like to hear this from the person who received the statement as what their feelings and inner divine qualities are on receiving this. And the fourth one will give an example of what might have been the feelings and inner divine qualities of the person making this statement. So we're going to get an opportunity to hear this four different ways. And the person who offered the button pushing statement is only going to listen. They're not going to offer any of the responses so that they get to really sink into receiving and feeling what it's like to hear this statement in four different ways. So what I'd like to do is ask if anyone is willing to go first. And I think just by going through it, it's going to become really clear what we're doing. And I'll manage the logistics, so you don't have to worry about that. So is there anyone who would be willing to go first and share their button pushing statement with us, starting with what the role is of the person making the statement?
I'd like to go first.
Okay, thank you. So what's the role of the person making the statement?
My daughter.
Your daughter, okay. And the statement is?
You never clean the bathroom.
You never clean the bathroom. Okay. So is there somebody who would be willing to volunteer for the first form of response of the person who's making the statement is wrong? The daughter is wrong. So something you could respond which would illustrate making the daughter wrong for making this statement. Is there somebody who'd be open to doing that? Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to say the statement like I'm the daughter, and then you're going to respond like you're Ellen, making the daughter wrong. Okay? You on board with that? Okay. You never clean the bathroom.
You just never notice when I clean the bathroom.
All right.
That's exactly.
I like that. What did you say?
I said that's exactly what I said.
Well, what I liked about that example, it was a very realistic example of how we might realistically respond, where from a calm place, from our mind, we show how the person is wrong. So thank you. Okay, now we're going to do it a second way. And I'd like a volunteer who would give a sample response where Ellen would be making herself wrong through this response. Is there anybody who would be open to playing Ellen, making herself wrong? This is our chance to do our acting roles here. We get to play each other. Anybody want to try this one? Bob?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the daughter saying the statement, and you respond being Ellen making herself wrong. You never clean the bathroom.
I'm really sorry that I haven't kept it clean enough for you.
Thank you. What I like about this response is, again, it's a very typical response of how we might respond in life when we're making ourselves wrong, and often not think we're doing anything wrong by responding that way. In fact, an apology, we might think, well, that's really the right response. I'm apologizing. So thank you.
So would you say that was another calm way of seeing it from your mind and not feeling your feelings?
You're still in the right-wrong paradigm there of who's right and who's wrong. So you're calmly taking responsibility, which for most of us means making ourselves wrong.
But detached from our feelings.
Yes, we're judging the rightness and wrongness. You're right. I haven't been doing it the right way. I've been wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, but still staying at this level up here. So now I'd like a volunteer of the third possible way of receiving a communication, which is to connect with the feelings and the inner divine qualities of the one receiving, which in this case would be Ellen. So would someone like to volunteer for this? And I'll be happy to support you and coach you. Okay, thanks, Jenna. So I'm going to start by making the statement first. I'll be the daughter, and you're going to be Ellen, responding with her, as best you can guess, her feelings and her inner divine qualities when she hears this statement. You never clean the bathroom.
Oh, that does not feel good to hear that. I I feel really sad that you think that. And what I'm really needing is to feel acknowledged and accepted for all the work I do around here.
Yes, thank you. When I hear that, I feel sad because I'm needing acknowledgement and acceptance for the work I do. Thank you. Yes,
Can I make a comment on this?
let's wait till afterwards.
Yeah.
So I encourage you just to take it in, knowing that this guess may not be right. It might be a different feeling, it might be a different inner divine quality, but rather than what I encourage you to do is just feel what it's like to just to connect at the level of feelings and inner divine qualities as opposed to rightness and wrongness.
No, so far it's all good. It's all
Oh, phew. Okay. Fourth possible response is to connect with the feelings and inner divine qualities as best you can imagine or guess for the person making the statement. Would anyone like to volunteer for this? And I will coach you and help you if you need help. Any takers? Okay, Chris, thanks. Okay, so I'll start out being the daughter. You're going to be Ellen, guessing the feelings and inner divine qualities the daughter might be having in this situation. And I encourage you to do it in the form of a question because we don't know. We're just doing our best to guess. So, you never clean the bathroom.
That makes me wonder if you're feeling upset because you're feeling like the shared responsibilities are not equally distributed, and you're feeling a sense of lack of community.
Thank you. Take that in for a minute. What it's like to guess what the feelings and the inner divine qualities of the other person would be rather than hearing rightness and wrongness. And of course, I'm suggesting everyone feel this, not just Ellen. Okay, so Ellen, I'd like to give you a chance to express anything coming up for you in hearing these different options in these different ways.
Well, all of them, it's like I went through all of what everyone said so fast that, because it just happened the other day, what my response to her was, that's a great idea. I think we should have everyone should have responsibility for cleaning a different room. What's your favorite room to clean? So I was already in problem solving before I just kind of bypassed my feelings, her feelings, which I think I do a lot, and went into problem solving.
So how was it to slow it down in this way and hear the different possible options and kind of rest there with each one? How was that for you?
I think I do it, but I just do it so fast.
Okay, so that's
because everything everyone said I could connect to.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but it's just kind of like being on this fast track. Coming up to a solution. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to try it next time and see if going slower. I kind of like solutions, so hard solutions, and yeah.
What I encourage you to do while we're doing this exercise is just notice what's coming up for you right now. And not try to figure out what does that mean, what I should do, how I can change. Just notice what your experience is in hearing these different things.
I think it's great. I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Which part? And all of them, or any part in particular?
Just seeing the different layers
Mm-hmm.
and how it's broken down into so many what you do naturally, what you take for granted, to break it down into layers.
Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that it fulfilled your inner divine quality of awareness and maybe self-connection, to really be aware of what you tend to do, in a very fast way, to be more connected to it through slowing it down in this process.
I think it satisfied a quality of appreciation.
Uh-huh. Appreciation in what way?
Just appreciating myself, I think.
Uh-huh. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there someone else who would like to go next in sharing their button pushing statement and doing practice with receiving it in these different ways? Jenna. Okay, great.
Okay, I'll go. So this was actually a former employee that I had, and this one, like, this still haunts me. So if I can get some resolution, it'd be great. The statement is, "You never include me."
Okay, thank you. This round, as we're going through this, what I encourage people to do is to whether you're the one making the response or not, be thinking of what a response could be. So everyone's participating, silently on your own. And as you do that, notice if some of the responses are easier for you or some of the responses are more challenging for you, and start to notice your own, challenges or ease in doing this. Okay, so is there someone who would like to volunteer to make the first response of being role-playing Jenna, and you're going to make this person wrong, the employee wrong, for saying this? Any volunteers? Okay, great. So I will be the employee and you get to be Jenna. You never include me.
I thought I had it there for a moment. Now I'm rethinking it. You're not available when I need to bring you into some conversations.
Thank you. So I heard a different tack there for making the other person wrong. Rather than, it's not their statement that's wrong, it's what they're doing, their non-availability, that makes them wrong. So thank you. We have lots of different ways of going about this. So I like the full expression here. Okay. So second possible response would be Jenna making herself wrong when she hears this communication from the employee. Anybody want to try this one? Take a stab at this one? Okay, great. So I will be the employee talking to Jenna. You're going to be Jenna making yourself wrong. You never include me.
I'm sorry that you're not there, and I so want you to be part of this group.
And right now, notice the energy when you come from that place of, they're right. I haven't done it. I guilty as charged. Notice the energy within yourself. Okay, let's go to the third way. Thank you. Let's go to the third way of Jenna responding with what her feelings and inner divine qualities are. And this may not be an outward response. This may be Jenna talking to herself inwardly, of what she's here, her own connecting with her feelings and inner divine qualities when she hears this. So anyone want to be Jenna connecting with her feelings and inner divine qualities? And I will help if you need help. Okay, thank you. So I'll be the employee, and you're going to be Jenna, making her, saying the feelings and inner divine qualities she has coming up when she hears this. And it can help to start with the phrase, when I hear that, I feel. That can be helpful as a launching place. You never include me.
When I hear that, I feel as though you feel that you are in management. It's your responsibility to make these decisions.
Okay, so I hear that as making her wrong. I don't hear that as Jenna connecting. I hear that as Jenna making the employee wrong. I don't hear that as Jenna's own feelings and inner divine qualities. And partly it started out, when I hear that, I feel that. And remember, when we say I feel and it's followed by that or like, what's going to follow is almost always not a feeling. It's usually a judgment of rightness or wrongness. So
I'll have to think on that. Go ahead.
can I coach you?
Sure.
Okay, so let's start out with just the feeling. When I hear that, you never include me. When I hear that, I feel, what do you think might be her inner feeling, Jenna's feeling as her boss that comes up? Just one word. What's that feeling that might come up for her? I feel
challenged. I feel
challenged is what someone else does to you. If someone else is challenging you, what's your inner feeling that you might have?
insecurity.
I feel insecure. Yes, that could be a feeling. When I hear that, I feel insecure. And what could the inner divine quality be that's not being fulfilled, that insecure feeling is pointing to? What might Jenna be needing in that moment or longing for?
Respect.
Could be. Yes, when I hear that, I feel insecure because I'm needing respect from my employees. I give a pass to that, yes. We don't know. We'd have to ask Jenna if that's what it was for her. But notice, regardless of whether the guess is right or wrong, notice the difference of just hearing a sincere guess of feelings and inner divine qualities. Notice how that affects you, your feeling, your energy. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to the fourth possible way of guessing what the employee's feelings or inner divine qualities might be that's motivating them to make this statement. And again, I will help if you need help. So is there somebody who'd like to role play Jenna guessing the employee's feelings and inner divine qualities? Okay, thanks. So I'll make the statement as the employee, and then you're going to be Jenna guessing my feelings and inner divine qualities. You never include me. And I suggest that you start out with, are you feeling?
Are you feeling angry that you're not connected to the whole group?
Yes. Yes. And I think it could be even stronger, just a slight tweak here. Are you feeling angry because you're not feeling connected to the whole group the way you'd like?
Okay. Are you feeling angry because you're not connected to the whole group in a way that you would like?
Yeah. Take just a moment to notice how that feels. Whether it's a right or wrong guess, we don't know, but just the feeling of coming from that place, in what that does for you. To hear someone guessing that or to imagine yourself saying it. Okay, so Jenna, I would like to hear if there's anything you're open to sharing about what it was like for you to hear these 4 different responses. And thank you to everyone who made the guesses.
Yeah. So yes, yeah. Thank you for offering up so I could hear it in those 4 different ways. I can feel it. I just feel it in my body, the differences and just the power and the energy that those words have.
Can you describe what the feeling in your body is?
It feels it's like the last 2 examples, right, where we're identifying feelings and the inner divine qualities of self or the other person. It feels thoughtful, feels very grounded. It just feels very present. You're acknowledging it. You're not in this lofty headspace.
So I'm hearing that for you, it supported your inner divine qualities of presence and groundedness and thoughtfulness, awareness.
Yeah. It felt like a much more of a true connection and getting to the root of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to I want to highlight something here. When we shifted to feelings and inner divine qualities from thoughts of rightness and wrongness, I saw Ellen and Chris do something that I really like and that I have used and recommended to people in the past, which is they put their hand on their heart. And this can be a real support for coming from feelings and inner divine qualities. So I highly recommend this as a tool. If it works for you, at least check it out, explore, and see if that supports you. Sometimes we've done this whole exercise with doing the first 2 like this and doing the second 2 like this. So maybe this round we'll go into that. Let's try that. So who else would like to share their button pushing statement and do practice with that now as the next person? Chris? Okay, great. So start out telling us the role of the person making the statement and then what your statement is.
Okay. This one is kind of a challenging one for me to volunteer.
Before you do, I just want to check in. Are you comfortable sharing this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The role is of someone I love dearly. You comfortable?
I don't know.
You want me to check with you on mute before I share the statement?
No, it's fine. I mean, it'll be a growth opportunity, so go for it.
Okay. And are you ready for the statement?
Yeah.
Okay. The statement is, you are always in a mindset of lack.
Okay, thank you. And just to check in with both of you that you're still comfortable with proceeding with the exercise.
I don't think we'll kill each other after the call.
I certainly hope not.
I'm already looking forward towards the light at the end of the tunnel here.
Okay, thanks. So, a volunteer I think what I'd like to suggest is that we just do this with both of you listening, and we're just going to do this with Jenna and Bob volunteering the responses. That sound okay?
Yep.
Okay, since both people are here right now. So, Jenna or Bob, would one of you be willing to be the first person? And we're going to put our hand on our head for this one, and making the, so you're going to be role-playing Chris making his partner wrong for making this statement. Either one of you willing? Okay, thank you.
Go.
Chris, I need a refresher on the statement.
You are always in a mindset of lack.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Jenna, I'm going to be Chris, and no, I'm going to be partner. You're going to be Chris responding with making me wrong. You're always in a mindset of lack.
I have to be to balance us out a bit more.
Thank you. So notice the energy when there's this kind of response of you're wrong. Okay, thank you. Okay, second one is I'm wrong. So if one of you would be willing to come up with a sample response of Chris making himself wrong when he hears this statement. You want to go for that one, Bob? Cool. Okay. So I'm partner. You're responding as Chris making himself wrong. You're always in a mindset of lack.
Well, I guess I'm just too negative.
Feel the energy right now when you connect with that way of responding, or when you hear that kind of response. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to shift into, instead of feelings and needs, we're going to put our hands on our heart and shift. I mean, instead of hearing rightness and wrongness, we're going to shift into hearing feelings and needs. So hopefully more heart connecting responses and even ways of hearing. So would one of you be willing to guess what Chris might be feeling and what his inner divine quality might be when he hears this statement? And I will help you if you need help.
Give it a go.
Are you okay with Jenna? I saw Bob unmuting himself, but I didn't hear anything. Okay, thank you. So I encourage you to put your hand on your heart, and if everybody else wants to, I think that I encourage that too. So I am going to be the partner, and you are going to be Chris, connecting with his feelings and inner divine qualities. And I suggest starting with the statement, when I hear that, I feel. So you're always coming from a mindset of lack.
When I hear that, I feel hurt. Because what I'm needing is I need to feel safe and secure.
Thank you. So regardless of whether that was right or wrong, just feel how it feels to have someone come from that place of focusing on the inner divine, the feelings and inner divine qualities of the person receiving that. Okay, and then the fourth way is guessing the partner's feelings and inner divine qualities in making that statement. So you want to go for this one, Bob? Great. So I'll be the partner. You're going to be Chris, guessing the partner's feelings and inner divine qualities, which I suggest using this as a support, this form of, are you feeling because you're needing or wanting or longing for an inner divine quality? So you're always coming from a mindset of lack.
Are you feeling unfulfilled because we need more excitement? You need more excitement in your outlook on life.
I would say excitement is a feeling rather than an inner divine quality. I'm really appreciating your guessing here. And I'd like to put the feeling in the first part. So are you feeling unfulfilled? If someone was unfulfilled, what's the feeling that might go with that unfulfillment? Think in terms of like a visceral feeling.
Unhappy. Are
you feeling unhappy? There we go. Because you're longing for what?
What's more excitement in our life?
Some what?
Excitement.
So excitement is a feeling again.
Yeah.
Where would that excitement be coming from? What would it be pointing to?
Adventure.
Yeah, adventure. Okay, are you feeling unhappy because you're wanting adventure?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. So regardless of whether that's the right, wrong guess, which we'd only know by checking in with the partner, just notice what it's like to come from that place of guessing the person's feelings and inner divine qualities versus hearing their words and hearing rightness and judging rightness or wrongness. So now, Chris, I'd like to check in with you and see how was that for you to hear those 4 different ways? What came up for you?
So I really liked for the third way when Jenna said that it was about safety and security, that resonated. I think that is also connected to some survival and just putting it in that form really I felt took away some of the self-judgment. Mm-hmm. And then when we did the fourth form, it really kind of let go of any residual self-blame or feeling of wrongness. When Bob provided the, are you feeling unhappy because you want more adventure? Something like that.
And that's where the compassion comes from.
Mm.
That's the compassion piece, where we start to connect with the other person's inner divine qualities as best we can. It shifts from blame into compassion. But it's on the foundation of the third step of our connecting with ourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'd like to, there's one person we haven't done yet, and I think, is it Bob? Okay, would you be open to sharing your statement with us, starting with the role of the person making the statement?
I think so.
Uh, let's wait till it's really a yes. I think so from my point of view is a no. Because it's not a yes. So I'm open to you passing if you're not comfortable. This is as a teaching point here, as a coaching point, this is part of the practice of, from my point of view, respecting people's free will and supporting people in coming from free choice as opposed to duty, obligation, anything like that. Like, you are not obliged to do this because I'm the teacher authority saying this is what everyone has to do now. So your choice. Is this something you would like to do, or would you prefer not to do it?
I'll pass for now. I'll pass.
Okay, thank you.
It had to do with an ex-wife, and it probably could get pretty, yeah, I'll pass.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking care of yourself and respecting well, to me, respecting your free will, but also activating choice, free choice. Thank you. So I'd like to open it up for any observations of what you noticed, experienced, became aware of in all of this practice we just did. We heard some reflection from the person who was their button pushing statement, but there may be other things that you experienced as we were doing this. So if there's anything else anyone would like to share, I'd like to open it up for that.
So, oh wait, was somebody else going to go?
Go ahead, Jen.
Okay. What I'm still processing is what I find also very fascinating is that, so in my example, I was really trying to not get emotional in that situation because I thought that would just take the whole discussion like way off the rails. And what I'm noticing now is like, wow, my choice to not go to the emotional place took the conversation off the rails, right? Because we never landed, we never got to the root of things. And it just, I don't know, it's like one of those conversations that happened a few years ago, but I continue to replay it in my mind from time to time because it never felt like it was resolved. I'm just fascinated by like what was really needed was something that I didn't do and what could have been different.
Yes. And I would encourage you to take this a step further in your own practice after our session here of maybe do it as a writing practice where you play both parts or all the parts. Well, I wouldn't spend time on the first two parts. The third and the fourth parts of this is what came up for me. This was my feelings. And if you want, we could do this as a practice together right now. But if not, you can do it with yourself afterwards. This was my feelings, and this was the inner divine qualities of what I was longing for, what I was needing in that moment that those feelings are pointing to. After you make that real self-connection, and you'll know because you get to a place of, there's a relief that happens when you make your own self-connection. And I strongly urge you, don't go to the next step until that's in place. So really make that self-connection first. Then you can go, what do I think really was going on with her? What was behind her words? What were the feelings? And do your best guess and write it out. Like you were asking her, were you feeling this because you were longing for or needing this? And write it out. And then based on that, ask yourself, is there any action in life I would like to take based on this? Whether you do it or not, this is your own practice with this. So you might say, I wish I could replay that conversation, and I wish I could say this to her instead. Or I wish I could write, I would like to write her an email. Or I would like to pray and just bless her. You know, what, and this is where there's no right and wrong. There are infinite possible actions you could take. But to consider that, and then to ask yourself, do I really want to do any of these in the next step? You know, you could actually do them, or just bringing it to consciousness that you could do that can be incredibly healing. And you can even have a conversation with yourself where you play both roles. You can write it out that way. You can talk it out loud. And that is a healing technique that's often used. You may be familiar with this. It's often used therapeutically. And it's very powerful. And when we have old situations that we're stuck with these old tapes of right, wrong, rattling around in our head that we're not through with yet, we can do this. We can empower ourselves to actually heal within ourselves in that way. So I hope.
So thank you for that. Yes, I think I'll be probably doing all of those later this week.
And the other thing I want to say about this is we have culturally, at least in the United States, and I think probably in other cultures too, we have a very strong belief, many of us, that we shouldn't be emotional in the workplace. And that's actually unsupportive to be emotional in the workplace. It's going to interfere with work getting done. And I actually have a very different belief. My belief is that we are human beings. We are inherently emotional wherever we are. And if we don't address it, it interferes with our work. I certainly know. And the more of an emotional type of person you tend to be, the more it's probably going to interfere with your work. Some of us are better at suppressing our emotions than others and functioning on top of them. But even if it doesn't interfere with the work, it's going to come out somewhere else, because emotions are energy, and energy does not disappear. It always goes somewhere. So if we're not allowing that emotion to move, emotion, move and go to its resolution where it's trying to go, that suppression, that holding back is going to affect us somehow or other, where it comes up as, you know, disturbing our mind, blocking our mind in some way, disturbing our body, getting sick from it, you know, or actually interfering with our ability to function and be as productive and, you know, at our best because of not allowing that. So this is a great, this is a personal campaign of mine, is to challenge this assumption that we can't be emotional at work. First of all, I think we're already emotional at work. It's just not even the case. It's not even true. It's whether we want to, how we want to handle our emotions at work. And I think that talking about it and interacting and showing our emotions in this kind of way, where we're taking responsibility, we're linking it to inner divine qualities, as opposed to blame and, you know, criticism and all that kind of thing, is a different approach that I have seen be very successful, including at work situations. So Marshall Rosenberg told a story once that I really liked. He was giving a presentation to a group of top-level CEOs, and somebody said something and it stimulated emotion in him, and he started to cry. And he felt embarrassed that he was crying in front of all these very high-powered businessmen. I think it was all men there. And he revealed that in front of the group. He said, "I'm feeling embarrassed right now, and I'm guessing that you're all uncomfortable with me crying, and that to you this is a sign of weakness, and maybe even doubting my competency to be presenting to you and talking to this group right now." And then he asked the group, "Is that right?" And so he brought it right into the room, and everyone was quiet. And then one man spoke up, who may have been sort of the group leader. And he said, "No, that isn't what I was thinking. I was actually remembering." And this Marshall knew that this man was in the midst of a divorce at that moment. And he said, "I'm actually remembering how my wife, one of her chief complaints is that I never show my feelings." I get a lump in my throat just telling the story. I think our world could change immensely from our changing our relationship to being transparent about feelings, even in the workplace.
Yeah, I think it brings a whole new level of being vulnerability in connecting with others.
Yeah.
Yeah, this week's audio programs, it really kind of made me realize, how often I'm in the intellectual part of that, especially when one of the sessions shared about what empathy is not. And I go, oh, yeah, I analyze, I try to do positive thinking. I try to do fixing. It's like, oh yeah. There's a lot of those things that I do that I've been kind of, sometimes in conversations that I have, it's asked of me, can you meet me, where I am? And sometimes I don't know how to do that. And this is kind of giving me, an epiphany, like Bob said, this is a great epiphany. It's given me an epiphany too of how I can, oh, if I am focused in the first two response areas in a triggered way, and I'm using my mind and not my heart, then I'm going to be not getting to the empathy. I'll be mentally projecting from my mind what empathy may be, which may be more like sympathy, as brought up.
Right. Right. So the principle here is connect first, heart connect first. Then we may do some of those other things after we have the heart connection. We may go to seeing if there's ways we can support the person in various forms, maybe by understanding more what's going on, maybe by, trying to help them in practical ways. We may not. We may find that that's not even what's called for in this situation. Once we make the heart connection, we won't know till we're there. Any other things anyone would like to share about their experience of these different ways of responding? Or was there something else you were going to comment on or ask about, Bob?
Well, I think that what Chris was talking about has been very typically how we're taught as men to relate to the business world. And it was impactful in the story you told that not only did Marshall become emotional, but the person that supported him in a way was the leader of the group, which probably gave a permission to the other men in the group to also feel a little bit more. What I'm trying to say here is that a strong person, and I would say from my perspective, masculine, is a man who's strong enough to be able to feel his emotions and not feel like he's becoming weak in the process. And I think that's very important, that a strong man, strong person, can back off of that pedestal of having to be the greatest, the biggest, the strongest, and realize that acknowledging the emotions that are under and interpinned with our structure is valuable without feeling like you're weak. You're actually not, because you are acknowledging the greater parameters of you. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that on a number of levels. One of the things that Mary says very clearly is that connecting with our heart through our feelings and even more importantly, our inner divine qualities, but both together makes us incredibly strong. You see, when we're connecting with our mind, all we need is somebody to tell us that we're wrong. And it's like, they've blown us over. You're incredibly vulnerable from that place of right, wrong. If you are connecting with your feelings and your inner divine qualities, no one can tell you you're wrong. Nobody can tell you, no, you're not feeling unhappy. Well, actually, what do you know? That's our true strength, is to come from that place, because we're coming from ourselves. That is our great strength. And that actually at another level, this has been used against us as a mechanism of control, of taking our power away, is to convince us that in fact we're being weak if we show emotion. But that was actually to make us easy to control. And we're unlearning that paradigm and that training. And by that, reclaiming our power. So we're really standing up to a lot here, a huge shift of consciousness to claim our power from this place and to say, no, that doesn't make me weak. That makes me strong.
It feels like that vulnerability is our strength. You know, to be vulnerable with ourselves, to be vulnerable by exposing ourselves to others, and having compassion through the process is what you're saying is our strength.
Yes, we are vulnerable when we first connect with and then share the precious parts of ourselves on the inside. But what a lot of us don't realize is that we're also strong in that vulnerability. And that's part of that training that we got, was that it's not safe to show that vulnerability. It's not safe to show who we really are, what's really precious to us on the inside, that something bad is going to happen. It's going to be taken away, that preciousness, if we do that. And this is hopefully replacing that with a whole different understanding that, yes, we might be hurt, but that preciousness cannot be taken away by another, only by ourselves. We're in choice about whether we make that inner connection first and foremost with our own heart. No one else can take it away. Only we can take it away or reclaim it. So that's our strength.
Yeah, it feels like it goes back to what you brought up in at the beginning. You know, that self-empowerment allows you to be compassionate with yourself and then express that compassion to others.
Yes. And then when we come from that place and have the option of supporting others in doing that too, in connecting with their vulnerable heart, that is an amazing thing, to share that gift with others, to support others in that. And that's the world I want to live in. Thank you. So, we are about at the end of our time here.
Yeah, we are.
And what I'd like to do is, first an announcement. some of you have made appointments for a coaching session coming up this week, and some of you haven't. If you would like to have a coaching session with me this week coming up, please send me an email with dates, days of this week and times that are good for you, and we'll set up a coaching session. And I would love to do that. And I have found that to be very helpful as another step in this process where you get a full, time just to engage this process with my support relative to some situation in your life. So I really look forward to those and encourage everybody to make use of it. So with that, I would like to open up for any last celebrations and mornings of our session this morning, and then we will close. Any quick celebrations and mornings anyone has?
I would like to celebrate the whole process. And and I'm mourning that I have to be punctual because we have to get on the road. Means that the traffic could prevent us from getting there on time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to celebrate just this community together of being both listened to and being able to help reflect on others.
Thank you. I think with that, we will draw this to a close, and I invite everybody to unmute yourself. We'll share a goodbye for now, and please listen to the session 6 recordings as early as you're able, and I hope to see you all next week for our last coaching call. So thanks so much for joining me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.